Erstes Mose.
Dear Heavenly Father,
Lieber himmlischer Vater,
Lord, we thank you for this new day of life.
Herr, wir danken dir für diesen neuen Tag.
We thank you that we can still gather together and study your word freely.
Danken dir, dass wir zusammenkommen können und dein Wort frei studieren können.
And I pray that you would bless and enlighten our minds this morning,
Und bitte segne und erleuchte unseren Verstand.
increase our faith,
Bitte lass unseren Glauben
and
wachsen.
establish us in thy truth.
Und bitte etabliere uns in deiner Wahrheit.
Please bless the live stream this morning.
Und bitte segne auch den Livestream diesen Morgen.
Help me to speak freely,
Und hilf mir frei zu sprechen.
and let it be according to thy will.
Und lass es gemäß deines Willens sein.
Also bless Sister Daniela in the translating,
Bitte segne auch Schwester Daniela und die Übersetzung.
and may your spirit be with us, we pray.
Und möge dein Geist mit uns sein.
We ask this in the name of Jesus.
Und wir bitten diesen Jesu Namen.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, I posted the notes in the live stream,
Also ich habe die Notizen wieder in den Livestream gepostet.
and if we begin by turning to Daniel chapter 8,
Und wir fangen an, indem wir zu Daniel 8 gehen.
so since last camp meeting last year, we've sort of been a bit perplexed to understand everything that's been going on in this time period.
Und seit dem Camp-Meeting letztes Jahr sind wir ein bisschen verwirrt darüber, eben zu verstehen, was um uns herum geschieht.
Okay, and you know what happened with Biden, and that was, we really didn't understand it at that time.
Und was eben mit Biden und so passiert ist, das haben wir zu dieser Zeit nicht verstanden.
Even though it was plainly written there, there was all the testimony was showing, right, leading us down to this point in time.
Und obwohl das eben beschrieben war, also das Zeugnis, das hat uns eben zu dieser Zeit gebracht.
But nonetheless, we had to, the Lord was wanting to teach us something from that.
Aber der Herr möchte uns davon etwas lehren.
So I've been praying and asking, who's Biden? Why is he there? Why is he doing this for? What does it mean, right?
Und ich habe eben gebetet, also warum ist Biden da und was bedeutet das Ganze?
Okay, so anyway, we're going to look at that this morning, hopefully try to understand that a bit better.
Also wir werden uns das heute Morgen anschauen und hoffentlich verstehen wir das dann besser.
Okay, in Daniel chapter 8, verse 13,
Also Daniel 8, Vers 13.
it says, Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Okay, so the vision is concerning both the daily and the papacy, right?
Also diese Vision ist bezüglich dem täglichen und dem Papsttum.
It's the two phases of this final kingdom.
Also es sind diese zwei Phasen des finalen Königreichs.
And it takes you down to the end of the 2,300 days prophetically, right?
Und das bringt dich eben zum Ende der 2300 prophetisch gesehen.
Which the Millerites had understood was the second coming, right?
Was die Milleriten verstanden haben, dass das zweite Kommen ist.
Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to jump back in Daniel 8 to verse 1 and look at the daily.
Und wir gehen zurück zu Daniel 8 und zu Vers 1 und schauen uns das tägliche an.
Okay, it says, In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came at last. Okay, so we know that this is the same vision that's in Daniel 7, right?
Das ist Vers 3. Also wir wissen, dass es dieselbe Vision so wie in Daniel 7.
And these 2 horns represent the Sunday law crisis.
Und diese 2 Hörner, sie stellen die Sonntagsgesetzkrise dar.
Okay, so it's really an illustration of what the Lord is going to lay out until he comes.
Also es ist eine Darstellung davon, was eben der Herr auslegen wird, bis er eben kommt.
Okay, so verse 4.
Vers 4.
I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him with the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones to the 4 winds of heaven. Okay, so unfortunately, I'll have to clean that off quickly. What we have, and what I want to show you, is that this is really an illustration of the rundown to the close of probation.
Also was ich euch zeigen möchte, ist, dass das in Wirklichkeit eine Darstellung ist von dieser Reihenfolge, dieser Erzählung bis eben zum Ende der Gnadenzeit.
Okay, so this last few verses there, we saw them being fulfilled right before our eyes, right?
Und diese letzten Verse, wir haben das gesehen, wie sich das erfüllt vor unseren Augen.
And we know that this great horn is typified by Biden.
Und wir wissen, das große Horn ist typifiziert durch Weiden.
Okay, and we know also that the period that we're in is like typifying this final judgment that we're about to go through.
Und wir wissen auch, dass diese Zeit, durch die wir momentan durchgehen, dieses finale Gericht vorausschattet.
Which is a type of the 7th plague. Right?
Was ein Typus für die seventh plague, für die 7. Plage ist.
Yes? Okay, give me 1 sec. So what I'm drawing here, just drawing a quick illustration of the 2 Sunday laws.
Also ich mache hier eine schnelle Darstellung von den 2 Sonntagsgesetzen.
Okay. So you have the Sunday law to the final review. Right. Sunday law to the final review. Midnight cry. And a few days ago when we were looking at this, we put in here, okay, the head, body, the waist, the legs and feet, right?
Also hier ist dieser Kopf, diese Brust, also die Hüften und die Beine und die Füße.
So here's the 7th plague down the end there where Christ comes, right?
Und am Ende ist die 7. Plage, wo Christus auch kommt.
And it's Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece in the 4th row, right?
Und das ist eben Babylon, Medo-Persien, Griechenland und dann das 4. Rom.
And we understand from Ezekiel 21 that Christ comes in the time period of the 4th, right?
Und wir
Right
verstehen
here.
von Ezekiel 21, dass Christus im 4. kommt.
2nd coming, right? Okay, so now the 2300 was fulfilled in Millerite history. And the 2300 is typifying the investigative judgment of the living.
Also die 2300, die jetzt sich erfüllt in der Zeit so von den Milleriten und sie typifiziert,
Investigative judgment of the living.
sie ist eben dieses Untersuchungsgericht der Lebenden.
Okay, so it brings, when you come to the end of that, it marks the point where the temple's cleaned and he's finished the investigation, right?
Und wenn man zum Ende davon kommt, von der 2300, dann markiert es eben, wo dieser Tempel gereinigt ist und das ist das Ende von der Untersuchung.
Okay, but I want to show you that the perfect fulfillment of the 2300 is right here, right?
Aber ich möchte euch zeigen, dass die perfekte Erfüllung von der 2300, also genau hier am Ende ist.
Right, so we've been showing this point that right here's the point where he says it is done, right, and the investigative judgment of the living is complete, right?
Und genau hier am Ende ist es ja, wo er sagt, also es ist getan und wo eben dieses Untersuchungsgericht beendet ist.
But when I say, I don't want to confuse anybody, when I say that, I'm talking about the type of the seventh plague in here, right?
Und ich spreche von diesem Typus der 7. Plage hierin.
Everybody understand what I mean by that? For instance, you have the final test, right? 1 to 6 and 7, right? So.
Also hier haben wir diesen finalen Test, also die ersten 6 Plagen und die 7.
So the seventh plague is typified in here. This is where the investigative judgment of the living finishes, right?
Also die 7. Plage ist ja hier typifiziert und das ist, wo dieses Untersuchungsgericht der Lebenden eben beendet wird.
So the 2300, right, which is this vision right here,
Also die 2300, was diese Vision hier ist,
is the vision of, takes you to the end of the Sunday law crisis. That's the point we need to understand. Right?
also diese Vision, sie bringt dich zum Ende der Sonntagsgesetzkrise.
It takes you to the end of the Sunday law crisis because first of all, the church needs to go through the investigative judgment of the living, followed by the Gentiles, right?
Und zuerst muss ja die Gemeinde gehen durch dieses Untersuchungsgericht und dann gefolgt von den Heiden.
Right, and once the investigative judgment is complete, he now has 144,000 that are going to go through the 7 last plagues, right?
Und sobald dann dieses Untersuchungsgericht dann beendet ist, hat er die 144.000, die dann vorwärts gehen.
So, right here, the 2300, oh, I mean, it will go to perfectly to this here, right?
Also die 2300 geht perfekt eben bis zu diesem Punkt hier.
Okay. I know that the fractal goes smaller than that, but I'm just keeping it in a simple. It comes to the beginning of the 7th plague where he says it is done, right?
Und es gibt ja auch noch ein kleineres Fraktal, aber um es einfach zu halten, also wo eben Christus sagt, also es ist getan oder vollbracht, dann ist das eben das Ende davon.
Anfang der 7. Plage, da sagt er, es ist geschehen.
Und das ist am Anfang der 7. Plage.
The end of the investigative judgment, the high priest comes out and he pronounces the blessing over the people, which is 7th plague where Christ pronounces the blessing.
Yes, exactly, right? So, and the point is that, so in the Sunday law crisis, you have the lion, the bear, the leopard, and then it comes to this point where you have the 4th, right?
Und in der Sonntagsgesetzkrise haben wir diesen Löwen, Bären, Leoparden. Dann kommt es eben zu diesem 4., dem Drachen.
Right? Okay, and we were putting in place the other day that the 3rd and the 4th gets punished, right?
Wir haben uns das ja schon angeschaut, dass das 3. und 4. eben zugleich bestraft wird.
And just the 3rd is Biden, right?
Und das 3. ist ja Bein.
Because there's the fractal in here. This is this fractal in here that we're looking at. Because in Daniel chapter 8, it talks about the two-horned power, right?
Und das ist eben dieses Fraktal, was wir uns hier angeschaut haben. Und Daniel 8, spricht er über diese zweihörnige Macht.
This is this two-horned power, right?
Und das ist ja diese zweihörnige Macht.
And this two-horned power goes all the way until this power rises up, right?
Und diese zweihörnige Macht, die geht eben so lange, bis eben diese Macht hervorkommt.
So, what would this typify?
Was würde dann das hier typifizieren?
The midnight cry. Well, in this sense, what would it typify?
Der Mitternachtsruf. Also was würde es typifizieren?
Come on, Francis. Where's the 7 last plagues poured out?
Also wo werden die 7 letzten
Yeah,
Plagen
the
ausgegossen?
close of probation, right?
Zum Schluss der Gnadenzeit.
Okay, so this point here, if we take this on the bigger fractal, right? So,
Also wenn wir das jetzt dieses größere Fraktal geben würden,
right, you've got this two-horned power ruling here all the way to the end, right?
dann hätten wir diese zweihörnige Macht bis hier zum Ende.
Then this horn comes against him at the end,
Und dieses Horn würde hier gegen ihn am Ende kommen.
right? And then, who rises up in this time?
Und wer kommt dann auf in der Zeit der 7 letzten Plagen?
The fourth, right?
Das 4.
This two little horns, and it brings you down till he gets punished at the end, right?
Die 2 kleinen Hörner und es bringt einen herab, bis die auch eben bestraft werden am Ende.
Okay, so we're a little confused, right? Maybe it's just me, but anyway, let's go to Matthew 24 and let's put some of these things in place.
Wir gehen jetzt zu Matthäus 24,
Verse 15.
Vers 15.
Okay, so we're following down the narrative of Matthew 24, right?
Und wir folgen jetzt dieser Erzählung von Matthäus 24.
And verses 1 to 14 is a representation of which time period?
Und Vers 1 bis 14 ist eine Darstellung von welcher Zeit?
The Sunday law crisis, right?
Die Sonntagsgesetz.
And you get to verse 15, it says, When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Where are we now? Where does it now bring you to?
Vers 15. Wohin bringt das an?
The what? No, you're not with us. We're following down the narrative of Matthew 24. The first 14 verses is the Sunday law crisis. Where does this now bring you to?
Also die ersten 14 Verse sind ja die Sonntagsgesetzkrise. Und Vers 15, wohin bringt das einen dann?
You need to clean them out and
Yes, but what event is it? It's the close of probation. It's the 7 last plagues, right?
Also ist das Ende der Gnadenzeit.
Because there is the abomination of desolation, right?
Denn hier haben wir dieses Gräuel der Verwüstung.
Okay, so Matthew 24 and verse 15, if we go back to, or Matthew 24 verse 15 would be the next thing that happens in Daniel chapter 8.
Also Matthäus 24, Vers 15 wäre das nächste, was eben passiert in Daniel 8.
Right, because in Daniel 8 all we've done is we've gone down through these 2 horns and we got to this horn, bringing where he, what does it say? It says he smotes the ram and break his 2 horns. Right, that's where we've come to in Daniel chapter 8. Right.
Denn in Daniel 8 haben wir diese zweihörnigen Macht gelesen und dann von dieser dritten Macht, die was eben den hier zuvor eben schlägt und seine Hörner bricht.
Everybody following, or am I confusing the issue? It's
Und
just
kann-
2 fractals that are showing exactly the same thing, right?
Es sind einfach 2 Fraktale, die einfach dasselbe zeigen.
Okay. And I'm just using, the fact is, we've studied Matthew 24, and Matthew 24 verse 15 marks the beginning of the 7 last plagues.
Und wir haben ja Matthäus 24 studiert und Vers 15 markiert eben diesen Anfang der 7 letzten Plagen.
Okay, because, in fact, it doesn't matter, I'm a very confused issue. Go Go to this first quote, Great Controversy 25.
Jetzt gehen wir zum ersten Zitat vom großen Kampf.
Now, what I want to do now is show that the two horns that you come to next in Daniel 8 is one kingdom. Right? I want to really nail this point in place.
Und diese,
The one kingdom.
und diese, also was ich euch zeigen möchte, ist, dass diese zwei Hörner eben ein Königreich sind.
Okay, the Great Controversy 25. It says, Jesus declared to the listening disciples the judgments that were to fall upon apostate Israel, and especially the retributive vengeance that would come upon them for their rejection and crucifixion of the Messiah. Unmistakable signs would precede the awful climax. The dreaded hour would come suddenly and swiftly. How would the dreaded hour come?
Also wie würde die gefürchtete Stunde kommen?
Okay,
Schnell und unerwartet.
so the destruction of Jerusalem, right, is the destruction of the world.
Und die Zerstörung von Jerusalem ist ja auch die Zerstörung der Welt.
It's the destruction upon the cities, right?
Das ist die Zerstörung über die Städte.
It says, and the Saviour warned as follows, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. When the idolatrous standards of the Romans should be set up in the holy ground, which extended some furlongs outside the city walls, then the followers of Christ were to find safety in flight. Okay, so what this quote here, who is Sister White referring to the abomination of desolation being set up?
Also Schwester White, auf wen bezieht sich dieses Gräuel der Verwüstung?
Pagan Rome.
Auf
Right.
das heidnische Rom.
Okay, so when you parallel Luke 21 with Matthew 24, Luke 21 is talking about pagan Rome, Matthew 24 is talking about papal Rome, right?
Und wenn man Lukas 21 mit Matthäus 24 vergleicht, dann Lukas 21 spricht eben über das heidnische Rom und Matthäus 24 über das päpstliche.
We all get that point? Just go to Luke 21, just remind, I'm sure some people might not.
Und wir gehen jetzt zu Lukas 21, um uns daran zu erinnern.
Verse 20,
Vers 20.
Luke 21:20. It says, when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that desolation thereof is nigh. So when was Jerusalem compassed with armies?
Also wann wurde Jerusalem umzingelt von Armeen?
It's Cestus, right?
Seit Cestius.
Okay, so it's taking you back into the time of the Roman power when it was ruling and it surrounded Jerusalem. It's paralleling it to Matthew 24 and verse 15.
Also diese römische Macht, die eben Jerusalem umzingelt hat, setzt es eben parallel mit Matthäus 24, Vers 15.
Okay, so okay, now go to Daniel 11 and verse 31.
Und jetzt gehen wir zu Daniel 11 und Vers 31.
Because God's word's not contradicting itself, it's trying to show us things and teach us lessons that are outside the human scope of reasoning, right?
Und Gottes Wort widerspricht sich ja nicht selbst, sondern es versucht uns eben neue Lektionen zu lehren und Dinge, die was ja aus unserem Verständnis hinausgehen.
Okay, so in Daniel 11 verse 31 it says, an arm shall stand on his part, they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination it maketh desolate. So which time is this talking about?
Also von welcher Zeit spricht das?
Papacy.
The papacy, right?
Vom Papsttum.
So the Bible takes the papacy and pagan Rome and puts them together prophetically at the same time. right?
Also die Bibel nimmt das Papsttum und das heidnische Rom und tut sie eben zusammen zur gleichen Zeit
Now let's
prophetisch.
have another witness for that. Go to Daniel 11, verse 24.
Und jetzt ein weiterer Zeuge dafür, Daniel 11, Vers 24.
It says, this is speaking about pagan Rome.
Und er spricht jetzt über das heidnische Rom.
He shall enter peaceably even upon the farthest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. And he shall scatter them among the prey, and spoil and riches, yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. So Rome was going to rule for a time, right?
Also Rom würde herrschen für eine Zeit.
So now go to verse 27.
Und jetzt gehen wir zu Vers 27.
And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table. Who's these two kings?
Also wer sind diese zwei Könige?
Right. Both lie into each other, right?
Also sie lügen sich einander an.
So these are the two kings of the United States, right? Or the two presidents of the United States.
Und das sind diese zwei Präsidenten der USA,
The North and the South.
der
Right.
Norden und der Süden.
But it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. Okay, so how long does Rome rule, or when does Rome rule until?
Also bis wann herrscht Rom?
Time appointed.
The time appointed,
Bis
right?
zur bestimmten Zeit.
Okay, so the papacy and pagan Rome, Sister White is putting them together as beginning to rule at the same time, right?
Also das Papsttum und das heidnische Rom, Schwester Weid, bringt sie eben zusammen und sagt, sie beginnen zur gleichen Zeit.
Verse 35. Because he wanted to make the point of the time appointed, right?
Okay, and I would have just realised that I'd done it there. Okay, yes. Now go to verse Daniel 11 and verse 35.
Und jetzt gehen wir zu Daniel 11, Vers 35.
And we'll see that the papacy also rules till the time appointed, right?
Und wir sehen dort, dass das Papsttum auch bis zur bestimmten Zeit herrscht.
And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them, to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed, right? So, the abomination of desolation, when you combine these things together, is going to rule for a time.
Also das Gräuel der Verwüstung, das herrscht für eine Zeit.
Right? And it's going to rule until the, let's put it here, the time appointed, right?
Und es herrscht eben bis zur bestimmten Zeit.
The time appointed, the time of the end, is when you come down here and don't get challenged by the spaces that we have, right? This is the end, right?
Also wir dürfen uns jetzt nicht durch diese durch diese Abstände eben verwirren lassen, sondern das Ende ist eben hier.
Okay, I've just laid this out nice and simple. We know that we're in this fractal and you come down here and but the point is that the seventh plague is marking the end, right?
Und der Punkt ist, dass die 7. Plage, sie markiert das Ende.
Right? Sunday law crisis ends with the pouring out of the seventh plague in type.
Also die Sonntagsgesetzkrise, sie endet mit der Ausgießung der 7. Plage im Typus.
Right? And that, what's happening here, is just typifying the time of the end here. Right?
Und das, was eben hier passiert, das typifiziert die Zeit des Endes hier.
So a time of the end is just the end of the time, right?
Also es ist einfach das Ende der Zeit.
Right? It's a time appointed where the time is going to come to an end.
Es ist die bestimmte Zeit, wo die Zeit ein Ende findet.
Right? It's real simple, right? Okay. So now go back to Daniel chapter 8, right?
Und jetzt gehen wir zurück zu Daniel 8.
Because what we've done is we've shown that all this really is perfectly fulfilled beginning at this time period, right?
Und wir haben ja gezeigt, dass Also all das, die perfekte Erfüllung, also das beginnt zu dieser Zeit hier.
Okay, so Daniel 8 in verse 9 is going to begin here.
Also Daniel 8, Vers 9 beginnt hier.
It says, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, toward the east, toward the pleasant land. Right? So this is speaking about which entity?
Also das spricht über welche Entität?
Sorry?
Pagan Rome.
Pagan Rome, right?
Über das heidnische Rom.
So let's go to Daniel 7 and verse 7.
Und jetzt gehen wir zu Daniel 7 und Vers 7.
After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast. Which beast?
Also welches Tier?
Which is pagan Rome, right?
Das vierte, was heidnisches Rom ist.
I saw in the night vision, behold, a fourth beast. So this fourth beast is this little horn in Daniel chapter 8 and verse 9, right?
Also dieses vierte Tier in Daniel 7 ist das kleine Horn in Daniel 8.
Everybody understand that?
Versteht das jeder?
Dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, it had great iron teeth, it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So there's the 10 kings, which are part of this pagan Roman Empire, right?
Also hier sind diese 10 Könige, die Teil sind von diesem heidnischen Rom.
And the pagan Roman Empire, in these 10 kings, consists of north and south, right?
Und diese heidnische römische Macht, sie besteht aus Norden und Süden.
Which was these two kings sitting at the table lying to each other, right?
Was ja diese zwei Könige waren, die auf einem Tisch saßen und sich einander belogen haben.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Verse 8.
Vers 8.
I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. So how many little horns do we have now?
Also wie viele kleine Hörner gibt es?
Two, right?
2.
And they're both part of the same kingdom, right?
Und sie sind beide eben Teil von demselben Königreich.
So we just went through and shown that pagan Rome that rules for a time and the papacy, the abomination of desolation, they're both marking the same one kingdom, right? This two-horned power, right?
Also das heidnische Rom, was eben für eine Zeit regiert, und auch das Papsttum, was das Gräuel der Verwüstung ist, sie sind eben beide ein Königreich und fangen eben hier an zu herrschen.
And they're both going to begin here and rule until the time appointed, which is the time of the end, right?
Und sie beginnen eben hier und herrschen bis zur Zeit des Endes, was die bestimmte Zeit
So
ist.
here we have these two little horns, right?
Also hier haben wir diese zwei kleinen Hörner.
Okay. It says, I considered the horns, behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So, in order for the fourth beast to rule, the daily has to be taken away, right?
Also damit dieses
In order for the fourth beast to rule, the daily has to be taken away.
also damit dieses vierte Tier eben herrschen kann, muss das tägliche hinweggenommen werden.
Okay, so here you have Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, the daily, right? The 3 that were plucked up, right?
Also hier haben wir Babylon, Medo-Persien und Griechenland, die 3, die was ausgerissen wurden.
And it brings you now to the perfect fulfillment of the last kingdom under the 7 last plagues, right?
Und das bringt dich dann zur perfekten Erfüllung dieses letzten Königreichs unter den 7 letzten Plagen.
Typified at the time of the end,
Und typifiziert an der Zeit des Endes.
right? Because the time, the time of the end. This what point was I going to make there? It's gone right out of my head there. Can't remember what I was going to say. Excuse me. My brain's rushing
Maybe
ahead.
the time appointed is the time of the end. That's why it's typified by the time of the end. The other one is also the time of the end. Because before this you read that Rome is ruling till the time of the end.
Yes.
Time appointed, which is the end. So
Okay, that's the point I was going to make, because this, in one sense, is the 7 last plagues, right?
Also das hier in einem Sinne ist die 7 letzten Plagen,
Okay, Sunday law crisis.
die Sonntagsgesetzkrise.
And at the beginning of the Sunday law crisis, what's set up?
Und zum Anfang der Sonntagsgesetzkrise, was wird aufgestellt?
A two-horn power, right? So you have a two-horn power set up, beginning of the Sunday law, two-horn power, Sunday law, beginning of the 7 last plagues, two-horn power being set up, typifying the 7 last plagues, right?
Also wir haben diese Zweiherde gemacht in den 7 letzten Plagen und typifiziert eben hier in der Sonntagsgesetzkrise.
Okay, but in another sense, this is the 7th plague because under the 7th all 7 repeat, right?
Und in einem Sinne ist das diese 7. Plage, denn unter der 7. wiederholen sich ja nochmal alle 7.
Hence, this is the time of the end, and it's the time appointed, right?
Deswegen ist es auch diese Zeit des Endes und die bestimmte Zeit hier.
Because time of darkness leads you to the time of the end, right?
Denn diese Zeit der Finsternis geht dich bis zur Zeit des Endes.
Amen? Are we following the repeating patterns?
Kann jeder diesen wiederholten Muster folgen.
Remember, we were showing that this is this, right?
Und wir haben ja gezeigt, dass das hier so diese 7. letzte Plage ist.
Time appointed, time of the end, right?
Also und da ist am Anfang diese bestimmte Zeit und die Zeit des Endes.
So what you have here, this illustration is just the same as what we have here, right?
Also diese Darstellung hier ist dasselbe, so wie was wir eben hier haben.
So time is also 12:16, right? That's there is a time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because the papacy is the abomination of desolation, right? And it rules until the time appointed, right?
Yes.
And how long does it rule for?
360.
It's
No, the papacy, Mark.
time.
1260.
1260, right? And pagan Rome also sets up at the same time and rules till the time appointed, which is 360, right? So 360 is 1260. That's what you're asking.
No, I'm just, what confuses me a bit is the phrase "a time." And
No, but a time is 1
60
year.
is 3.5, so
No, it doesn't matter. It's just a prophetic symbol. They're not real time, right? Just like 2300 is not 2520, neither is it 1260, neither is it 1335, but they're all represent the same time period. They're just symbols,
okay.
right? So not to think of them as in time.
It's just a parallel. The 360 and the 1260 is just a
Yeah, okay.
parallel.
We were showing last night that the hour is what? 1260,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
It's just the symbols that you're tying together, right?
Also diese 360 vom heidnischen Rom und diese 1260 vom päpstlichen, das einfach parallel und das eben auch diese eine Zeit.
Like that, right? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on that point.
Yes. Okay. So. Right. So now go back to Daniel 8 and verse 10.
Und jetzt gehen wir zurück zu Daniel 8 und Vers 10.
It says, and it is this last kingdom, right? These two little horns, right?
Und diese 2 Hörner ist dieses letzte Königreich.
Yes? Okay. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily was taken away. Who took the daily away?
Also wer hat das tägliche weggenommen?
The fourth kingdom, right?
Das
In a
vierte Königreich.
perfect prophetic sense, right?
Also im perfekten prophetischen Sinne.
Because the papacy, right, the papal horn used the pagan horn to take away the daily, right?
Und dieses päpstliche Horn hat das heidnische Horn eben benutzt, um das tägliche wegzunehmen.
Okay. We know that historically pagan Rome was the daily. That's not the argument here, right? This is prophecy, and they're bringing things together. That Babylon,
Und wir wissen, dass das heidnische Rom ist auch eben dieses tägliche, wir bringen
So
also historisch gesehen, ja. Aber wir bringen eben diese Dinge prophetisch zusammen.
when pagan Rome and papal Rome combine, pagan Rome is hiding itself under a Christian gap. This is what it's teaching, right?
Und wenn eben dieses heidnische und das päpstliche Rom sich miteinander verbinden, dann dieses heidnische Rom verbirgt sich unter diesem christlichen Mantel.
So all this here in this context is the daily. This is the transgression of desolation, right?
Also all das hier ist dieses tägliche und das ist die
Transgression of desolation.
Übertretung
Verwüstung.
der Verwüstung.
Okay. And transgression of desolation is when a church power and a civil power comes together. That's just really what it means, right?
Und die Übertretung der Verwüstung ist einfach, wenn kirchliche Macht und zivile Macht eben zusammenkommen.
These two horns, right?
Also das sind diese zwei Hörner.
Okay. Okay. So, because it says in verse 12, and this,
In Vers 12.
this is the fulfillment of it, and a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. So, when the army is given to the papacy, or the pagan power comes together with the papacy, it's a transgression, right?
Also wenn diese heidnische und das päpstliche Rom zusammenkommen, dann ist das eben eine Übertretung.
It's breaking the law of God.
Also es bricht das Gesetz Gottes.
It's the transgression of desolation.
Es ist die Übertretung der Verwüstung.
Because when church and state comes together, what happens?
Denn wenn Kirche und Staat zusammenkommen, was passiert?
They immediately start murdering those that disagree with them, right?
Sie fangen sofort an, eben diese zu ermorden, die nicht übereinstimmen mit ihnen.
Okay, now go to Revelation 17.
Und jetzt gehen wir zu Offenbarung 17.
Because Revelation 17 is now the judgment upon this transgression of desolation.
Denn Offenbarung 17 ist jetzt das Gericht über diese Übertretung der Verwüstung.
Okay, Revelation 17 verse 1.
Offenbarung 17, Vers 1.
And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials. How many angels came?
Wie viele Engel kamen?
One, right?
Eine.
And talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So, who's this angel, and why?
Also wer ist dieser Engel und warum?
It's the seventh angel, the seventh plague.
It's the seventh plague, but why?
Because
Also es ist der 7. Engel der 7. Plage.
it's the judgment on the great wall.
Right, judgment, but why?
Denn da kommt ja das Gericht
We
über
know
die
it
Hure.
says that it's a judgment on the great whore, but why?
7
Why is it the seventh plague?
Warum ist es die 7. Plage?
Explain it on the diagram.
The end of the 1260.
It's at the end of the 1260, right?
Also ist das Ende der 1260.
The first plagues begin here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this angel, one of the seven angels, comes and shows me the judgment on the great whore, right?
Also diese ersten 6 Plagen, die beginnen ja schon hier und dann am Ende dieser 1260, dann kommt dieser eine Engel, der 7. und zeigt eben das Gericht über die Hure.
Right? Okay, I'm glad that we see that, right? And then it says, verse 2,
Vers 2.
with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So, it's talking about when the kings came together with the church. In this sense, talking about this period, right?
Also das spricht darüber, wenn diese Könige mit der Gemeinde zusammenkamen. Das ist eben diese Zeit hier.
So in an initial sense, John is here, right, at the end of the 1260.
Also Johannes ist hier am Ende der 1260.
Right? And showing us now, because this here, in one sense, is the end of the 1260, right?
Und das ist das Ende dieser 1260.
John is standing there, and he's taken back and showing what this beast has been doing, right? And is pointing forward to where it's going to repeat it, right?
Und Johannes steht hier und ihm wird gezeigt, was eben dieses Tier getan hat, und er wird in die Zukunft eben verwiesen, dass
Right.
es eben nochmal aufkommen wird.
He's illustrating the deadly wound, marked by the seventh plague, right?
Und da ist dann diese tödliche Wunde eben dargestellt durch diese 7. Plage.
But it's really pointing forward down to this point, right?
Aber es zeigt eben in Wirklichkeit vorwärts auf diesen Punkt.
Okay. So now go to Revelation 18.
Und jetzt gehen wir zur Offenbarung 18.
Revelation 18, these first 3 verses, is parallel in Revelation 17, 1 and 2.
Und Offenbarung 18, die Verse 1 bis 3, ist ja parallel mit Offenbarung 17, Vers 1 bis 2.
It says, And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, What? Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. Same illustration as what we read in Revelation 17, right?
Also das ist dieselbe Darstellung, was wir auch in Offenbarung 17 gelesen haben.
So one of the angels comes with the 7th plague, right? It's the 7th angel.
Also dieser 7. Engel, er kommt mit der 7. Plage.
So now we just read this next quote, which we're becoming very familiar with, right?
Und jetzt lesen wir das nächste Zitat, was uns sehr bekannt ist.
We need to study the pouring out of the 7th vial. The powers of evil will not yield up the conflict without a struggle, but providence has a part to act in the battle of Armageddon, when the earth is lightened with the glory of the angel of Revelation 18. What did we just read?
Und was haben wir eben gelesen?
That the 7th plague is the pouring out of Revelation 18, right?
Dass die 7. Plage, sie ist diese Ausgießung von Offenbarung 18.
Because all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, right?
Denn alle Nationen haben getrunken von diesem Wein des Zornes der Nationen.
So now you can see this is the angel in Revelation 17:1 that comes to John, and this is the punishment that he's shown him, the punishment of the 7th plague, right?
Also das ist dieser Engel aus Offenbarung 17, der eben kommt und ihm diese Bestrafung eben zeigt.
Right? It's like the valley of the dead dry bones. Okay. Yes. Let's go to Revelation 17 and verse 12.
Und jetzt gehen wir zur Offenbarung 17 und Vers 12.
It says, now this is this punishment, right?
Und das spricht jetzt von dieser Bestrafung.
It says, the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings. So who's the 10 horns?
Also wer sind die 10
We
Hörner?
already read it, already mentioned it.
Das haben wir schon gelesen und schon erwähnt.
Where did we read it?
Wo lesen wir von denen?
Daniel.
Daniel's a big book, Margaret.
Daniel 8.
No, we didn't read it in Daniel 8.
Daniel 7.
Daniel 7, right? Thank you.
Wir
Right?
haben davon in Daniel 7 gelesen.
We read about the 4th beast, and then joined to it was this another little horn, right?
Wir haben über das 4. Tier gelesen und dazu eben war dieses kleine Horn.
So this 10 horns here is the north and the south. It's these 2 kings that sat at the table lying to each other, right?
Also diese 10 Hörner, die sind dieser Norden und Süden, diese 2 Könige, die sich aneinander belogen haben.
It says, And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Okay. Okay, I'm jumped down, excuse me, go back up to verse 12. I jumped ahead of myself there.
Und wir gehen zurück zu Vers 12.
It says, the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. This is this 1 hour, right? That's what we were looking at yesterday, right?
Also das ist diese eine Stunde, was wir uns auch gestern angeschaut haben.
These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. When does he do that? They make war at the Battle of Armageddon, and he overcomes them at the Battle of Armageddon, right?
Also das beim Kampf in Armageddon, also dass sie eben Krieg gegen das Lamm machen, das Lamm überwindet sie aber.
For he is Lord of lords and King of kings. Where do we see that?
Also wo sehen wir das, dass er Herr der Herren ist und König der Könige?
Revelation 19, when he comes on the white horse to defeat them at the Battle of Armageddon, right?
Das sehen wir in Offenbarung 19, wenn Christus auf diesem weißen Pferd ist und sie eben besiegt beim Kampf in Armageddon.
For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. Right? So both the kings agree to give their kingdom to the beast, right?
Also beide dieser Könige, sie stimmen überein, dass sie ihr...
Okay, we've always misunderstood this, right? And this is why they needed us to see Biden, right?
Sie stimmen überein, dass sie ihr Königreich eben dem Tier geben.
How many popes is there?
2.
Und
Right.
wie viele Päpste gibt es?
One gives his heart to one pope, another one gives his heart to the other pope, but they're both the beast, right?
Also es gibt 2 Päpste und einer gibt sein Herz dem einen Papst und der andere dem anderen, aber sie sind eben beide
Das Tier.
das Tier.
Okay, you can see how it's really, it's one kingdom, but it's a divided kingdom, right?
Also wir können sehen, es ist ein Königreich, aber es ist ein geteiltes Königreich.
It's a divided kingdom between these two mentalities of north and south, even the beast, right?
Es ist ein geteiltes Königreich von dieser Mentalität des Norden und des Süden, sogar
Okay.
beim Tier.
So now you can see why when the punishment comes, it's a punishment on both the third and the fourth, right? The Greek horn, Biden, and the Roman horn, Trump. But not so much Trump, but the north, because if we understand things rightly, he will repent, right?
Also wir können sehen, dass diese Bestrafung eben über das dritte und das vierte kommt und dass eben beiden, also das dritte, also das eine Horn und eben das vierte, also den Norden.
Okay, better to just say the north and the south, and it keeps things simple, right?
Und es ist besser, wenn wir sagen, dass es Norden und Süden ist.
When Jesus also says, when the kingdom is divided, it shall not stand.
Yes, it shall not stand,
You
right?
can see that all those kingdoms, they all have the north and the south, but
Yes.
it shows that they are doomed to destruction.
Yes, they are doomed, right? You're not to go to the left hand or the right, right?
Also wir sollen ja nicht zur rechten und zur linken gehen und die sind alle eben, ja, verdammt.
Und was ich gesagt habe, ist, Jesus sagt, wenn das Königreich in sich gespalten ist, dann wird es nicht bestehen können, sagt er. Und deswegen in all diesen ganzen Reichen hast du immer Nord und Süd. Und deswegen sind alle diese Königreiche schon
That's why they're not going to
verdammt
stand.
in dem Sinne, ja, von vorne aus.
Okay, so let's go to Daniel 11, verse 1.
Und jetzt gehen wir zu Daniel 11 und Vers 1.
It brings you back to this point, right? Why it proves that we are now about to see the punishment of the seventh plague in type, right?
Und das bringt uns eben zurück zu diesem Punkt, warum wir eben diese Bestrafung eben in der 7. Plage sehen, im Typus.
Because we came to this point, right?
Denn wir sind ja zu diesem Punkt
But
gekommen.
then the Lord held the four winds and took us down into a fractal and repeated it, right?
Aber dann hat der Herr die 4 Wände gehalten und hat uns in ein kleineres Fraktal gebracht.
Okay, and this is where we are now. Daniel 11, verse 1.
Und das, wo wir auch nun sind, in Daniel 11, Vers 1.
Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now I will show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. What's it doing right here?
Also was tut es hier?
Together.
No, just think about the pattern that's laid out here and just what,
Separate the fourth from the other three.
yes, it's separating the 4 from the 3, but it's the same. There's the 3, and here's the 4th, right?
Also in Vers 2 haben wir dieses dritte und dann das vierte.
Okay, and as Margaret said, it's marking the point where these two, church and state, comes together, right?
Und das markiert eben diesen Punkt, wo Kirche und Staat zusammenkommen.
So 2016, that was a type of the midnight cry, right?
2016, was ein Typus von Mitternachtsruf war,
The 4th came, right?
kam das vierte auf.
And therefore the next thing we should see is right here, is whom?
Und das nächste, was wir sehen sollten, genau hier ist, wer.
No, Sister Manuel, the 4th is here. 4th comes here until here.
Also das vierte ist ja von hier bis hier.
Because this is a little fractal, this is 1260, right?
Yes.
So what point in time is this, at the end of the 1260?
Also das ist ja diese 1260.
Yes, look there, I'll tell you the answer.
Welche Zeit ist das hier am Ende?
The appointed time, right?
Das ist die bestimmte Zeit.
And at the appointed time he's going to get punished, right?
Und zur bestimmten Zeit wieder bestraft werden.
By whom?
Von wem?
By the 3rd, right?
Durch das dritte.
Are we all following?
Können wir alle folgen?
Because what happens at the end here with this Greek horn, right, is just typifying what's going to happen here. We just read it. What do the 10 kings do here?
Und die 10 Könige, was tun sie hier?
Yes, the 3rd and the 4th, they realize they've been deceived. They're destroying one another, and they're also destroying her, right?
Also das dritte und vierte, sie haben erkannt, dass sie verführt wurden und sie zerstören sich gegenseitig und auch sie.
Zerstören sie.
Right. So we know that the 7th plague is the time period that's cut short, right?
Und wir wissen ja, dass diese 7. Plage, sie ist die Zeit, die verkürzt wurde.
So the 2 witnesses are prophesying in sackcloth.
Also diese 2 Zeugen, sie weissagen in Sacktuch.
That's the 144,000, right?
Das sind die 144.000.
For how long?
Für wie lange?
For 1260.
Für die 1260
Until it gets cut short, right?
bis die eben verkürzt wird.
And when it gets cut short, who rises up against them?
Und wenn es verkürzt wird, wer steht dann auf?
The south,
Der
right?
Süden.
The south rises up against the north right there, right? And it's the French Revolution, and there's this chaos taking place, right?
Also der Süden steht auf gegen den Norden und da ist diese französische Revolution und dieses Chaos.
Right? Okay, but doesn't matter. So I won't try to mix things in. Go back to Daniel 11, right?
Zurück zu Daniel 11.
Because it says, verse 3,
Vers 3.
a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. This is the south coming against the north, right?
Also Vers 3, das ist dieser Süden, der gegen den Norden kommt.
And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, right? And shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, not according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside it. Who's it going to be given to?
Das ist Vers 4. Also wem wird das gegeben?
God's people, right?
Gottes Volk.
You see how all these words, when they're brought together correctly, they're teaching us that his kingdom gets taken from him and given to God's people.
Also wenn wir diese Dinge zusammenbringen, dann können wir sehen, wie dieses Königreich eben genommen wird und Gottes Volk gegeben wird.
So when you go back to Daniel 7 now, which is the end of the 2300,
Und wenn wir jetzt zu Daniel 7 gehen, was das Ende der 2300 ist,
verse 9,
Vers 9,
I beheld till the thrones were cast down. That's here at the time appointed, right?
Also das hier zur bestimmten Zeit.
I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was said, and the books were opened. Okay? The sky parts, right? And the law comes forth.
Also die Wolken, sie teilen sich und das Gesetz wird sichtbar.
And the law, the two tables of stone are bound together like a book,
Und
right?
diese zwei Steintafeln, sie sind zusammengebunden wie ein Buch.
The book, the law that's going to judge you is opened, right?
Also das Buch, das Gesetz ist geöffnet, was dich richten wird.
It says, I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. What did the 10 kings do to her?
Und was haben die 10 Könige ihr
Eat
angetan?
her flesh and burn her with fire, right?
Sie haben ihr Fleisch gegessen und sie verbrannt mit Feuer.
Okay, now go to the next quote.
Und jetzt gehen wir zum nächsten Zitat.
And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the book, according to their works. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was said, and the books were opened. These things are soon to come to pass. When he that is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he that is filthy, let him be filthy still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still, he that is holy, let him be holy still. This decision is passed in heaven before Christ shall come, right? So right here, Christ's not there yet, right?
Also Christus ist hier noch nicht da.
Judgment is said, books are open.
Das
Right?
Gericht hat sich gesetzt, die Bücher wurden geöffnet.
It's getting read out. What's going to happen? Who's going to be judged? This is when he's reckoning with them, right?
Es wird eben vorgelesen, was passieren wird und wer gerichtet wird.
And he's just telling you what's about to happen there when Christ comes, what he's going to do, right?
Und es wird einem gesagt, was eben passiert wird, wenn Christus wiederkommt.
Okay. Now go to Revelation 22. Last verses.
Und jetzt gehen wir zu Offenbarung 22.
In fact, let's not read that. Let's go to Daniel 12:4 first, and then we'll come back to that.
Also wir gehen zuerst zu Daniel 12, Vers 4.
We're going to come back there, just keep your place.
Dann kommen wir zurück.
Maybe I
Daniel
just put
12,
it
Vers 4.
in the wrong way around. Daniel 12 and verse 4. It says, But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to when? The time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Right? So, right here, the judgment is said, and the what? The books are open. Knowledge is going to be increased. The latter rain is pouring out. Right?
Also genau hier, also das Gericht setzt sich und die Bücher wurden geöffnet und das eben dieser Erkenntniszuwachs und der Regen wird eben ausgegossen.
It's Amos chapter 8. Many are running to and fro and they can't find it, right? And others are running to and fro and they are being blessed by it.
Und das ist eben auch Daniel 8,
Amos.
Amos 8. Das ist eben Amos 8 quasi, viele werden hin und her laufen und es nicht finden, aber die andere Gruppe schon.
Right? Remember?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So now go to Revelation 22 and verse 10.
Und jetzt gehen wir zur Offenbarung 22, in Vers 10.
Because she just quoted these verses.
Und sie hat ja in dem Zitat zuvor diese Verse zitiert.
Verse 10.
Vers 10.
And he saith unto me, Seal not the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. What time is at hand?
Also welche Zeit ist nahe?
No, the time is at hand. What time is at hand? It's not right there yet, but it's at hand.
Also diese Zeit, sie ist noch nicht da, aber sie ist nahe. Also welche Zeit?
Yeah, his second coming, right? It's marking here, the time is at hand. He's just about to come, right?
Also sein zweites Kommen, also die Zeit, sie ist nahe, er ist dabei zu kommen.
Okay? Seal not. So if you're not to seal, what is it telling you?
Also versiegle nicht, also
The books are opened, right? They're not sealed.
das bedeutet, dass die Bücher geöffnet sind, sie sind nicht versiegelt.
He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He that is filthy, let him be filthy still. He that is righteous, let him be righteous still. He that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly. The time is at hand, right? And my reward is with me to give every man according to his work shall be. So the books are opened, and what you're getting read out to you is your reward, right?
Also die Bücher sind geöffnet und was dir vorgelesen wird, ist dein Lohn.
And Christ is coming quickly to give you your reward, right?
Und Christus kommt bald, um dir diesen Lohn zu geben.
He's either going to pour upon you the full outpouring of the latter rain, or pour upon you the full curse, right?
Also er wird eben entweder diese volle Ausgießung des Regens dir geben oder den vollen Fluch.
I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, right? Right?
Also hier haben wir diesen Anfang und das Ende.
This truth is becoming so profound to us, right?
Diese Wahrheit, sie wird eben sehr, sehr bestätigt.
The vision of the wheels within the wheels is the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, right?
Und diese Vision der Räder in den Rädern, das ist das Alpha und Omega, also das erste und letzte.
Because he demonstrates the end by the beginning, right?
Denn er demonstriert das Ende durch den Anfang.
Everything beginning to come clearer to us,
Und
right?
wurde
These
als klarer.
repeating patterns, right?
Also das sind diese wiederholenden Muster.
So he's basically he's raising up a people here and running them through this whole scenario, so that he can have a people here that will go through this, the 144,000, perfectly, right, representing him.
Also er lässt hier ein Volk eben aufstehen, die was durch dieses Szenario eben schon gehen, sodass er dann hier diese 144.000 haben kann.
Any questions?
Gibt es noch Fragen?
Okay, let's close with prayer.
Lass uns abschließen.
Dear Father in heaven,
Lieber himmlischer Vater,
we thank you for these illustrations
danken dir für diese Darstellungen,
and for all the thoughts that can be built upon them.
für all die Gedanken, die wir darauf aufbauen können.
And we ask you that you please help us to understand this Alpha and Omega in such an extent that we can receive this revelation.
Bitte hilf uns, dass wir dieses Alpha und Omega so sehr verstehen, dass wir die Offenbarung bekommen können.
And that you can give us this new birth experience.
Dass du uns diese Neugeburtserfahrung geben kannst.
And we ask you to help us today, throughout the preparation day, to contemplate these things.
Und bitte hilf uns während dieses Tages, des Rüsttages, dass wir über diese Dinge nachdenken.
And that we set your kingdom first.
Dass wir dein Königreich zuerst setzen.
And that we learn to control and direct our thoughts.
Dass wir lernen, unsere Gedanken zu kontrollieren.
And that we can bring them heavenward like Enoch did.
Und dass wir sie himmlisch richten können, so wie es auch Henoch getan hat.
So please bless us throughout these preparations today, and please help us to enter into your Sabbath.
Und so bitte hilf uns in der Vorbereitung heute und hilf uns, dass wir dann in den Sabbat eingehen können.
And we ask and pray in Jesus' name.
Wir bitten diesen in Jesu Namen.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen.